Hey everybody, welcome back to the course on creating your own info screen in React. For this episode, we'll be looking at initializing the project, which means starting the project, and taking a look at the file structure that we're given by the tools that we're going to be using. What you're looking at right now is my github.com front page. If you followed the last video, you should have created your own GitHub account, and you can look at a similar page. It might not have as much activity, but it should look similar. What we care about is this green button up here, which creates a new project for us. In GitHub terms, the projects are called repositories. We need to fill out some info here. For the name, I'm going to fill out info screen. You can put any name you want, but I recommend keeping a short and memorable name and not using any fancy characters so that we don't mess up our project for later. We also want to keep it public because we're going to be publishing the code on the internet later in the course. And we're going to click this button to add a README to our file. A README is just a file that tells us a little bit about what the project means. When we filled in those things, we can click the Create Repository button. That takes us to this sort of screen, which is what a project looks like when you look at it on GitHub, and that's what we're going to do for now. Now we need to open a terminal, and the terminal is a little bit different for each operating system, so you might have to go looking for some other resources if you can't figure it out. But on most systems, you'll have some sort of app that's called Terminal. You might have a custom app that you use, and if you're on Windows, you might remember from the last video that I asked you to also install something called git bash, and the git bash is what you want to use in this case. So you open your terminal. In my case, I use a terminal called iterm, and that opens here. And the terminal is kind of the text interface to connecting to your computer. So if you want to execute any sort of command on your computer, you can do that through the text interface. It can be a little bit complicated and daunting in the beginning, but we're not going to be doing a lot of complicated stuff. So the two commands that you'll need to know right now are cd for change directory. I'll just click cd now, which takes me to the root directory I'm currently in. And then the other command is ls for lists. ls shows you what files or folders are in the current directory. So this is kind of where I am if I was in Internet Explorer or Finder. And then cd will take us where we want to go. So in this case, I want to go to my documents folder, because that's actually, I don't want to go to my documents folder. I have a folder called repos, short for repositories, where I want to put my project. So you just need to navigate to some sort of file, some sort of location where you want to keep your project. Documents would be a natural choice for that if you don't have a dedicated repos or something like that folder. So to navigate there, I simply write cd and then I write repos. If you want, you can press tab to autocomplete. In this case, it autocompleted with a slash after the repos, which indicates that this is the directory. When we have cd's repos, we can press enter, and then we can press ls to see what's in here. And here you'll see all of the programming projects that I currently have on my computer. So this is where we want to put the new thing. So I'm going to tab back into GitHub for a little bit, and we can see this page here. What we want to go is for the green code button. In here, we want to clone this repository. We can also download it with zip if git clone doesn't work right away, but we want to use the clone normally. You might be using this HTTPS cloning tool, which simply means that you might have to write your password and username, your GitHub password and username when you clone. But I'm going to use SSH, which is a kind of a way to store a secret key on your computer that communicates with GitHub. It's a slightly complicated thing, but you can find good guides on GitHub for it if you just Google. So cloning the repository, I just click this button to copy it, but you can also just Command C to get this thing. Cloning a repository is to basically copy all the files. So now I'll go back into my terminal. I just Alt-tabbed back, and I can write git clone and then paste in that command that I had. And this tells GitHub to clone the resource that is at this address. If you chose the HTTPS cloning, it'll say HTTPS beforehand. And you press enter, and it'll start its work. And now it's doing some stuff. It's downloading some files, and that was really quick. For you, you might need to write a password in at this time, but I don't have to. If we write ls again now, we can see that in this list, we have, let's see, info screen here. That wasn't in the last lists. So that means we successfully download this file. Now we want to navigate into that file. We do that by again using cd, and then we write info screen, and I'll just do the tab to autocomplete, and then pressing enter. And now we'll write ls to see what's here. And we can see there's simply one file called the readme.md, which we told GitHub to auto-generate for us. So at this point, we're going to be using another terminal tool to automatically generate the file structure that we will need to create a React app. You can do this manually, but it's honestly just a lot of work of configuring different tools. So Facebook, who created React, have created a tool which will automatically set up a React project for us. This tool is called Create React App, and we initiate it by writing the command npx create react app, and then we put a space and then a full stop after that, a period. That's simply to tell the program that we want you to create an info screen application in this current folder. And then we press enter. This thing will work for a little while now, downloading a lot of files. So while that's working, I'll tell you about this npx command. So I told you earlier that Node, this sort of tool that we can use to run JavaScript outside of the browser, it comes with this tool called npm, the Node package manager. And Create React App is a tool that is available on the Node package manager. It's a package. npx is a special way of communicating with npm so that you don't need to download a tool to use it. It basically says, download this file and use it once and then delete it. And in this kind of case, where we just want something to build our files, we can do that sort of thing. Normally, we'll use the command npm. Now mine is done. Yours might take a little bit longer. I've recently done this for a test project, so it might have cached some stuff or be faster for some reason. But it should take a little while. You should get these sort of commands over here. So let's start by writing git status. This course won't teach you much about how Git works. I have a separate course for that, which I'll link in the description if you're interested. It's a rather long video thing I did at NTNU. But in short, Git status shows us the current status of our files. The fact that these are red means that they are new files that we have to tell Git about, in short. We do that by writing git add and then space and a period again. That tells Git, add all my current files. If you write git status again, we can see that they're now all green, and there sort of are a few more files, but that's simply because the last list kind of collapses all of the folders to one, while this one adds more of them. So these are all the files that are generated by the Create React app. And now we will try and tell Git that, okay, we want these files. So we do that by writing git commit and then -m, and we write some sort of command. And I'm just going to call it initial code. This is the first code we're beginning on. And I press enter. And then we get an error message. And this is very much just follow the steps and you'll be done. And soon we'll get to the work that's actually understanding what you're going to be doing. But we have to set it all up. So we fill out these two commands, git config. I'm not going to use the -- global. I'm just going to write user.email and then my email, which is aslakhol@gmail.com. Press enter, and then I'm going to do the other one, git config user.name aslakhol. And this is simply because when you put code out into the world, it's a standard that we always tell everyone who's looking at a code who it is that has written in. And that's a very important standard in open source development, for example, where you need to be able to communicate with the people who have created the code you're looking at. So when we've done this, we can again write our git commit message, which didn't work earlier, and we will write git commit -m initial code, and then press enter. We see we now created a bunch of connections in git, and then the final git command we'll do for now is git push. Git push simply means take the current code I have and push it to GitHub, because that's on GitHub we want it to be. And that'll take a little bit of time, like that, and then it's done. So now we can tab back into GitHub, and we're back on this page. If we refresh this page now, we will see some more files. Here we can see a bunch of more files and another standard Create React app thing. Okay, let's take a quick look at what we're doing next. So now this was a lot of just following instructions, and I'm sorry about that, but there is a little boilerplate that we have to set up before we get started with code. The final thing we're going to do in this part of the episode is to look at these files and look at what they look like. We could do that through GitHub, because we can click in these files and see what they look like. But I want to do this in my editor so that we get a little bit more familiar with that. So again, I'm going to open my editor. You can do that in any sort of way, probably right-click files or whatever. But I'm familiar with doing it from my terminal. And I can just write code and dot, which opens the current files. But in any case, that's just opening an editor for a folder, and the folder you want to pick is the info screen folder that you've created when you clone the project. So this is the default standard stuff that you're looking at in a React app created with Create React App. I won't go too much into detail with all these things, because honestly they get a lot complicated. But the first thing I should tell you is what is the node modules folder. We pretty much never have to go in there, but a node modules folder is where we store all the code that we borrow from other people. So basically, when we created this thing with Create React App and we use React App, I told you that we're using libraries that other people have created. Okay, we're leaning on code that other people have written. And all that code is available inside of this thing. And there's tons of code. So in reality, we never want to look at it. It just has to be there. And that's why VS Code understands that it should be gray, because this is the standard thing. In the public folder, we have some of the standard HTML files that we need. If you created web pages before, you might recognize the favicon.ico, which is kind of the little icon you have up in your browser. Index.html is an HTML file, because even though we're going to be writing our website in JavaScript, we need one HTML file at least. We have some logos for React, which that they used. And we have this manifest file. It's not that important, but it's about how you communicate with mobile phones. And then we have robots.txt, which tells search engines what they are allowed to look at in our app. And after that, we'll pretty much never look at this public page again. Or actually, we will look at it, but very much later. Then we look at these other folder files here. We have the README file that they created for us, which is just a lot of standard information. You can look at it if you want, but we'll go through the important stuff later. And then we have this readme.old, which is the readme that we've generated with GitHub, and they just kept for us when they created a new one. And we have this yarn lock file. The yarn lock file isn't that important. It's a system file that they need to make the stuff work. And we have a git ignore file, which is another system file that helps Git work properly. So these files we don't care that much about, but package.json we do care about. And we'll get back here later, but this file kind of describes what sort of tools we're using in our projects. So it'll show us, for example, that we're using one of our dependencies, so one of the things we rely on is React. And then all these other things are things that we rely on. But we'll get back to this one later as well. The most important thing here is the source folder, and that is where we keep all of the actual code for our app. They've generated a lot of stuff, and we don't need to care about that much of it. But we care a lot about this app.js thing, because this is what a React app looks like. This is the beginning point of our app, and this is where we later will write our code. So finally, before we end this look at the code and initialization, we should run the program and see if we can make it work. And to do that, we go into this into the terminal again, and we use a command called npm start. npm start simply tells Node to start a server with our current project, and that'll spin up and do its thing, and then it might automatically, like it does for me, open a browser, which will take a little bit of time to load. Let me look quickly at the other thing. So yeah, we can see that it's still working here. Compiled successfully. Now if we go to our browser, it should have something here. And that's it. We have a spinning React thing, and that means we have a working React app, which we can start editing in the next episode. We'll see you then.